It was an action movie.
I do not involve government agencies in my personal affairs if it can be at all avoided.
Oh, I agree with that. No, I'm not disagreeing with you there. I think that if you can avoid calling the police at all costs, people call the police for any stupid thing anymore, right? And I think
not me, man.
And it wasn't us calling the police. It was our psycho roommate. He once called the police.
I'd rather bury the body in the backyard than have to explain it to
Aaron, my psycho ex-roommate once called the police because we used his restroom, which, by the way, wasn't his restroom. That's why he called the police. That's how mentally nuts he was. So
I agree that you have to call the police for specific situations. I'm going to give you one example where I actually had to tell my own neighbors not to do this. The neighbors were having a party out in their backyard. They were having a cookout or a bonfire. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We're allowed to do those type of things because we live in the country. Okay, so we have good neighbors out here. Well, apparently one of the neighbors who just moved in recently, didn't like the fact that the smoke was coming across the street into their house in that area, and they started smelling it, and they were going to call the cops on them. Well, unfortunately, the problem with that is the person that they were going to call the cops on was a black family. Okay. And I get really freaked out over this because I've seen it too many times that black people get killed and shot for misunderstandings and things of that sort. So I did go on the forum when they made this complaint on our group forum. And I said, don't call the cops. Don't do that. Don't just walk over, knock on their door and ask them, hey, can you please put out the fire so that way the smoke doesn't come into my house? And then they did respond, you know what, you're absolutely right, because I did let them know that sometimes there might be a misunderstanding. You send a cop down there and it might end up becoming a bigger situation than what you're really trying to have them take care of.
That's true.
But is that a situation
that's a scary thing
where the police could even do anything? Because if it's you can't help the direction of the wind. Like if smoke is coming out of a cookout or whatever, how in the world would you be able to tell somebody?
Some people, like I said, they call the police over any stupid things, right? I mean,
yeah,
one lady was calling the police because people were having a cookout in the park.
I'm trying to imagine calling the police on my neighbors because I can smell their barbecue. What the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly.
There are a lot of people out there that are like that.
Yeah.
Why am I not bringing over a rack of pork ribs to help with that?
Yeah,
you said
they
the
get all
exact
better,
same
man. Bring me
thing
some
that
pork
I did.
ribs.
I told them, I was like, why don't you go over? And better yet, I bet you $1 million that if they were to go over and they knock on your door and you say, hey, can you please put out the fire? It's kind of like, the smoke is going into my house. I'm having a problem with that. What if they were to invite them, say, hey, I'm sorry, you want to come on over and have some burgers? We're having a good time.
Totally cool.
Be good neighbors. Don't call them because, look what happened to the individual that was it in Arizona, the gentleman that got shot by the cop in the middle of the hallway of the hotel.
That was an execution.
That was execution, all because a bystander called the cops because they thought something was wrong,
right?
And they found out that it was not later on. They made a mistake.
They thought they were waving a BB gun or something. Was that the one that he was told to put his arms?
It was a dart gun. Yeah,
it's a dart gun. Yeah, and so the poor kid was scared shitless. Clearly, and they murdered him because he was trying to pull up his pants. That was ridiculous.
There's a video online that I saw the other day that it's just not only is it heartbreaking, but it really pissed me off. And I'm not saying this as a way of flinging shit at cops or whatever, because I don't mean to do that. But McDonald's in Myrtle Beach, there was a guy that have you seen this video? I'm getting ready to say.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the female cop.
Yeah. In Myrtle Beach, this guy bought this homeless man some food, brought him in McDonald's, sat him down, got him a meal, and McDonald's, for whatever reason, and they should be ashamed of this too, but they called the police. The police got there and would not let the man eat that meal and kicked them out of that restaurant. And I just can't understand that. I cannot understand if he legally bought that, how the police have the right to tell him to get out after it's been purchased.
There's the same thing with the Starbucks where the person said, I would like to buy something for that gentleman outside. And they said, no, we can't let you buy food for the homeless. Now, the corporation actually they stepped in and said, you know what, we don't train our people to say that. That was the wrong thing to do. But still, I mean, think of the publicity that must be like for a company that says, we're going to deny giving homeless people food.
But the police tell it, where does the police?
I don't know how the police think that they have a right to do that either. I don't even know what statute what law would they be upholding by that? Hey, you can't eat even though it's been legally purchased.
Right. But they did. She would not let him eat.
And she removed the individual out of the restaurant, but I believe McDonald's response was that they don't do the training like that. They don't tell people to do that. I think their excuse was about the health hazards of somebody who's homeless who comes in. They can bring something into their restaurant, which is complete bullshit.
It's no worse than the burgers they sell.
Yeah, have you seen the people that eat at Walmart? Come on, they're not exactly the most hygienic people to begin with, half of them.
That man better be eating McDonald's for free for the rest of his life.
You know what? They have a gold card. McDonald's actually has a gold card. You get 2 free meals a week for like 50 years. That's what they need to give them.
That's not enough.
I know it. And by the way, they only have like 1 or 2 of them. Although they're a multi-trillion-dollar company, they only have a couple gold cards that they're offering for various reasons. That's how cheap they are. Come on.
Are you guys familiar with Tom Zebra?
No.
Okay, Tom Zebra is a cop watcher in California, and he's very well known in that area for doing police work, police investigations and going up on traffic stops and things of that sort. But he comes to mind because when he helps the homeless, he actually takes money out of his own pocket to help the homeless by bringing them hot dogs and bottled water and things of that sort. And there's other activists that actually worked with him that actually did that. So I can see that, helping other individuals that are unfortunate is kind of like, it's kind of needed, especially, now, because you're going to start seeing more and more people like that, unfortunately.
Well, let me ask you, do these cops even, they all know they're being filmed. So when that female cop did what she did, she knew that she was being filmed, I'm sure, right? Do they even think to themselves, do they think, how am I being looked at from the masses, the public out there, seeing their actions? I think a lot of people don't have this sense, like a lot of people, more normal people have, to be mortified by what you do, right? We do get embarrassed. If you can't get embarrassed because you do stupid shit, something's wrong. And I think that some of those people lack maybe that kind of stuff.
Speaking of which, I got to bring up another anecdote just for a moment. Having a group of people over to my 1-bedroom apartment for a sort of a small, get-together, which of course means loud, party and all that. Suddenly I have somebody pounding at my door. I go to answer the door, and there was a female cop, an oh my God, gorgeous female cop. And I remember standing there stunned at how beautiful she was. I'm like, whatever it was, I did it.
Strip search me now.
Nice.
And she had a giant black partner that was hiding behind the side of the door. He turns around and I'm like, okay, you were completely unnecessary.
Bring him to.
She had already utterly disarmed me.
What you were telling us a story, Black Label, on before we went live about a certain rapper that will stop. Do you want to go through that story with us?
Yeah. If anybody's familiar with the Wu-Tang Clan, there's a gentleman by the name of Marquise Johnson, goes by the name of Andre Rocks, with a group called the Killer Bees, which is an associated act with Wu-Tang Clan, and him and his father and uncle were driving home from, I don't remember what state it was, but they were bringing home a motorcycle, and apparently the trailer had a license plate that was tucked under that was halfway visible. Well, in Florida, they pulled him over. The police officers pulled him over for that reason, so they can let them know that, hey, your license plate's not visible, and probably would have been just a normal traffic stop and maybe a warning or something like that. But that's not the case. What they ended up doing was they pulled these guys over, and they didn't go to the driver. They went straight to the passenger. And I don't know if it's by luck or maybe if they saw who was in the vehicle or whatnot, but they went over by the passenger and they immediately asked Andre for his ID rather than the driver's ID. Well, he declined. He told him that, he's not driving the vehicle. He's not the subject of the investigation of the stop, so he doesn't have to give him his ID. There's no suspicion of a crime that the passenger did to be able to give up his ID, and they just escalated the issue from there. I believe Florida statutes, I don't remember the exact PC code. I think it's 905.151, and I think some of your viewers probably correct me on that. Specifically states that you can only show your identification if you are, about ready to commit a crime, have committed, or suspected of committing a crime.
Wait. And I want to understand that. You can only show your ID if you're about to commit a crime.
No, you're only obligated to, I think he means.
Right. It's like if you're suspected of something and they can articulate that suspicion, then you would have to give.
Well, they can ask though. I mean, the police can ask you for identification any time, but you
absolutely.
But you are within your right to say, I don't feel like I need to give you my ID unless I'm under suspicion of committing a crime. And if they can't articulate a crime, then they keep asking you. But 9 times out of 10, they do eventually give up and go away, or they fabricate some kind of charge. And that's the dangerous thing, right? When they fabricate a charge, like did the guy from the Wu-Tang Clan, I don't remember his name, but did they get him on any kind of charges? Because that's especially dangerous because they try to trump up charges for people like that don't want to show their ID, even though you're in your constitutional right not to show your ID because you're not driving the vehicle and you're not part of any any kind of ongoing crime when they need to check the other licenses in the car, right?
Well, if you guys take a chance and watch that video, you're going to see what the officer says. I believe, and don't quote me on this because I'm bad at memory when it comes to like what I just posted, but what the cop did say was, if you don't show me your ID, I'm going to charge you with disorderly conduct. How can you charge somebody with disorderly without them doing something? Like he's almost coming out and saying, "Hey, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to just make up a charge against you."
That's not like what they're doing. That is what they're doing. They're making shit up. They are trumping
Several
it up.
do that though.
This prompts another question for me. We have live video, like Facebook Live. Automatically uploads regardless whether you want to, you save the recording or not, right?
Right.
What is it? Is there a legal precedent on this? I mean, when you're recording the cop, and they tell you that they're gonna do this to you.
Well, they're the ones that the burden of that's going to happen on the police officer. They're the ones that are showing that they're lying, and a lot of people have gotten off on cases because the cops did actually get shown that they were lying.
Yeah.
Like that one gentleman that had the mistaken identity where they tased him. That cop got suspended, I believe, because he did lie on his report. Because he said multiple times in the video that he asked for that ID 3-4 times and he didn't respond. When in his report he didn't say that. He kind of hid that fact. But when the video came out, it's conflicting on both sides. So there's an issue there. Okay, but with Andre,
several of them
got. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say several
Andre,
people.
Sorry, you got a little bit of.
Yeah, we got a little bit of. Cop, go ahead and with the. What about Andre? Cop?
Andre, what happened with him? He ended up getting charged with disorderly, I believe, because of failure to ID. Now, I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. I mean, he's been in contact with me, every now and then. I told him I gave him a couple of videos on other situations like this, and he's looking into it. He's got attorneys and this and that, but he's going to give me an update soon. But as far as I know, they did charge him. And
okay, let me
it
ask
is
you,
insane.
though.
When you see the video, it's nowhere near. He was very respectful for the officer. He kept his cool. There was no, crazy situation. He even said, "Officer, is it okay if I go into my wallet and pull my lawyer's card out? I don't want to get shot or anything like that." He did all those things that anybody would do. But still, they had. Oh. I think they had it in their mind they were going to arrest him anyway.
Okay, well,
let me, Aron, to answer your question though. They a lot of them do stream live. Most of the audience that you see on YouTube are actually them streaming it in real time. They're not recorded, so many of them do that feature.
But I gotta ask. Look at if first look at this stream. Very good. Nobody caught it. So the obviously that people will be kicked. The charges will be kicked out. Right. The judge will say, look, the officer's lying. There's no reason why this person should be found guilty, blah, blah, blah. That's fine, right? But is there any ramifications for the cops that have actually done these things where they've known they planted evidence, they've known they've lied to a degree where it could be considered to be a false arrest? Is there anything that besides maybe just a reprimand, administrative duty, which is basically a vacation, is there any kind of suspensions or criminal prosecution that could be levied against the officers for doing these types of tactics?
Very rare do you ever see a police officer get convicted of a crime like that.
Is that a problem, though, that they're not?
It's a huge problem. It's a very huge problem. I mean, look at what happened with Leon Valley. We're going to go right back to that, where the chief of police actually blatantly violated the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, violated some individuals' Second Amendment right to carry their weapons. It's a big
Is that because
lawsuit.
He called it? Is that because he called it a press conference? Like, look, the police can lie and say, "Hey, look, you've won a lottery. Come on down, and we'll give you the prize." They can do stuff like that, but he called it a press conference, and that makes a whole different ball game, right? Because now he's saying we want journalists to come here, and we're going to violate your freedom of speech once you're here.
Nah, I still think he can lie about that.
I don't know. I have there been precedents on that before?
I'm sure that there's been cases where I don't know about specifically a press conference.
But that's what I think is different. They